Now you're all very welcome to the latest episode of The Racing Room as the dust just about settles on a belated end to the Dublin Racing Festival. The lads are here to pick the bones out of the two-day meeting, plus deal with all the latest big stories around the racing and gambling industries, which obviously include the latest destruction caused by the betting tax changes, and we'll also have a say on the sprinter Sacre Nicky Henderson story that was raising a few eyebrows earlier in the week. But first, we'll stick with Nicky Henderson for the big news. Did everyone catch the latest chapter of the Constitution Hill story on Wednesday? He managed to come out of a set of stalls. Tony, what break this down for us? What does this actually mean?
It means that he didn't refuse to come out of the stalls at walking pace. So yeah, it's a bit of a sorry saga, this, isn't he? Especially as he's now as short as 3-1 in places for the champion hurdle after the DRF. So we've got
What's
that
he doing?
to
What's he doing in the starting stalls in the first place? Get him back over hurdles.
exactly. So like I said, he's as low as three for the champion hurdle. He's going to be running on in the Mickey Mouse race at Southall. And the latest news line there is Asheen Murphy might be riding as well. So um, I'm not sure what's going on there, as we said on an earlier podcast. All a bit odd.
Story rumbles on, but we'll see. Hopefully, see him again soon in one guise or another. The other big story, I suppose, well, it might have been missed by a lot of people this side of the world, up in the Dublin Racing Festival taking place. But Frankie Dettori rode his last race in Brazil on Sunday night after a 40-year career and won a Group One on the card. Did you catch this, AK?
I
On
thought you were going to say a
Sunday
40-year retirement there for a moment, Ren.
I didn't catch it, Roll, to be honest with you. No, no interest, to be honest with you.
You might have caught the headline in the Racing Post from Lee Marshed's story. I was looking up at Christ and thought he was trying to tell me something. Frankie Dettori retires as a racing god after a dazzling last day in Brazil.
The clouds parted and God said, "Pay your taxes."
Get a new accountant. Yeah, it's it was quite a bizarre one because I can only think Lee's over there because he must be doing something secondary to actually just reporting on Frankie Dettori's latest farewell. Because I don't know whether there's a book in the offing or whatever, but I'd be surprised if the Racing Post footed the bill for him to go over to Brazil for a
I want to
amount.
say that. I was going to, yeah, I'm astounded that they would have paid for him to go down there to cover that, especially when people are so indifferent to this news. We have a tweet from Tom Livermore. I'll just read out here. It's fascinating watching the media cover the Tories' last rides to pretty much total indifference from the racing public. It hasn't been quite a sail out into the sunset for the Tory, more like a kind of tricycle down some shitty lane. Like it's just been so drawn out for ages, hasn't it? Like it's what does he do? Like I know it's over now, but like it's just been a bit of a mess, hasn't it?
It's like he's become his own tribute act, just wandering around the place doing Frankie Dettori. It was obviously a retirement that was aimed at, for obvious reasons, maximizing revenue rather than necessarily going out with as much kind of grandeur as, might have been achievable in other circumstances. I'm not sure this is a particularly appealing way to retire from a sport,
It's like
but it probably is quite a profitable one.
it's like watching Evander Holyfield throw punches at 50, isn't it? It's kind of it's desperate stuff at this stage.
Yeah.
I just, of course, I'm sure his legacy will be well remembered for all
Yeah.
the high points of his career. Well, when it comes down to it in a few years, we obviously have Friday Night Live to look forward to so next week. So we'll be looking forward to talking about that on the podcast. And just while we're doing a few miscellaneous stories here before we start the race review, did anyone catch the racing blogger's video of himself watching the Romeo Coolio race? No.
No.
It's dismissed completely. The Romeo Coolio Cargesio is
Yeah.
tremendous. There's a fella in the back wearing flat cap and a pair of circular sunglasses, and I don't know. I'm sure you've seen the race now. It looked like Romeo Coolio was going to win by 5-6 lengths after the last, and he's giving it the not too far. too far. And then the look on their face. I know it's silly, and I know we've talked about the racing blogger, but the look on both of their faces when it looked like the mayor was going to go get back up and beat them, it was absolutely tremendous. I actually would have paid lots of money to see the reaction that Cargesi got back up, but there you go.
Yeah. I'm assuming he backed
Um,
the twos on shot.
yeah, obviously, yeah, he landed a double with I think it was Narcisco has was the first leg of the double. So there you are, typical blogger video, but I enjoyed it anyway. Get us on with the racing review, Tony. You can take us through Leopardstown and more besides, and we'll get on to the kind of the ins and outs of all the stuff that happened after, or well, on the track, and the obviously the abandonment on Saturday, and AK's trading notes as well. But you take us through the action on the track.
Yeah. We'll come on to Anthony's how Anthony fared in a bit, but I'll try and fly through this as quickly as I can. Um, just before we get onto the on-track action, I should mention I did put it in as a topic, but I took it out for time purposes. We should mention that the broken drain is the most likely cause of that Cheltenham collapsed hole that caused that delay last week. So they're not entirely sure, which is a slightly worry, but it seems like a broken drain is to blame there. Action on the track. Thursday, we got El Cairo, second favourite, the Supreme, overcame another last flight blunder to win at Friesen at Foyles. And on that card, Mullins looks to have a decent one on his hands with Charm de Faust. So that'll probably be going for one of the big Cheltenham novice hurdles. On Saturday, domestically, obviously, Leopardstown was off, but Sandown was on, and 6 Mile Bridge saw off the Irish Challenge. One of them didn't complete Kitsball to win the Grade 1 Scilly Isles. So that was the an underwhelming Saturday, it turned out, but that was the highlight of that, the class highlight anyway. On Sunday we had obviously the first day of the DRF, very good attendance figures of 18,075. That was up 11% last year, when they got just over 16,000. So they were brilliant numbers, even though it was a day delayed. And I'm just seeing even today's figures, Monday's figures, they got over 10,000 today. So obviously it helped with his bank holiday there, but those are very, very good numbers for Leopardstown. On the track, on Sunday, we had Final Demand getting beat by 5-1 chance Cade Dorothy. I'll have to see the blogger's video of that if he backed Final Demand, because he must have been crying a long way out there. Then we had Talk the Talk winning the novice hurdle in a bunch finish. To many people's surprise, I think I spoke to some people at Leopardstown and they were on a table, and to a man they thought Talk the Talk was beaten, but trading very short in the photo finish and duly inched home. Mashborough looked much more like it, winning by a wide margin. Well back, Marie Nationale struggling to get a distant third. Brighter days ahead down Lossiemouth. So the champion hurdle market is as weak as I've ever seen it at this stage. It's all around the place, really. And we had a bit of drama in the last. Jockey called Stephen Connor mistook the 50-yard post for the winning line in the bumper. He's duck and got beaten on Royals Hillsborough. He got a 14-day ban for that. Begs the question, why do we have a 50-yard winning post that we can mistake for the winning line? It seems just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, Connections, to their credit, the owner took it on the chin and said, most things happen at sea, etc. So there's a bit of drama there. Just on to today, Monday. Relatively easy to back Dr. Steinberg, won the Nathaniel Lacey and Partners, despite pulling very hard. So we're going to have the usual race discussion about what one are they going to go for at Cheltenham. Bores me senseless, but we're going to get that with a few of these races. We do know Narciso Haas is going to go for the Triumph Hurdle, which he's short price favourite for, but I'd rather be on Selma De Veri, the runner-up, if they meet again. She ran a huge race in second there from off the pace, and yeah, I'd maybe take the second to get a lot closer to the winner next time. The aforementioned Romeo Coolio held on by a whisker from a rallying Cargesi in the 2 mile Arkle, a 2 mile 1 Arkle trial. Looked in trouble entering the straight, went clear, and then withered late on, but just held on. So again, we don't know what one that's going to go for. what race that's going to go for. Similar with Factor Far, really. We don't know whether it's going to go Ryanair that he won last year or the Gold Cup, but that was incredibly impressive when winning the Irish Gold Cup. Led Homer and Mullins 1, 2, 3. And the other story about that race is that was Mark Walsh's fourth Grade 1 for JP McManus on the 2 days. So he'll be very happy with himself for doing that. And we should give a nod to, I think Richie Forrester actually retweeted his article a couple of weeks ago saying Mark Walsh was very badly done too. So, yeah, a lot of people have been very happy for Mark Walsh there. The Gold Cup winner, I Know the Way You're Thinking, was beaten when taking a very tired fall at the last. So, not sure if that's going to turn up next month. We can say next month now. And a couple of Elliott's horses won the last two. Jacob's Ladder landed a punt in the 2 mile handicap chase, and Broadway's Head made it a quick-fire double for Elliott. Actually, it was a treble, given Romeo Giulio won earlier on in the concluding bumper. So that was the action on the track. If I missed out anything, tough.
Very good. Just on the Mark Walsh thing, I suppose the team of the weekend, just how successful he was in the green and gold. I just read you out of extra. I just reading through reports and stuff today, kind of reflecting on, and we obviously give good mention to Richie Forrest's piece, but Brian O'Connor writing in the Irish Times was just reflecting on today, and he's just read out a segment of his piece here, which I just thought was quite good writing. So he said. This Cobden fella must be something else, was one overheard comment as the famously taciturn Walsh played the straightest of bats to the inevitable queries about how he was feeling about things now after such a blow, this that being the McManus taking on Cobden. So I'm just kicking on, Walsh said. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just doing my job for now. I'll keep riding the way I am and hopefully I'll keep getting the results. Those hoping for verbal fireworks were always going to be disappointed. The 39-year-old Gold Cup and Champion Hurdle winning rider has always seemed a natural fit for McManus, as his off-quoting line about how many fish would still be alive if they'd only kept their mouths shut. But rarely has his riding done the talking so fluently as this. It was kind of the story of the weekend on the track, AK. But maybe you take us through from the trading thing, how much a blow the Saturday situation was. Obviously, we were hoping it was going to go ahead on for late Friday night. I think we probably sealed his fate on Saturday night. I was texting you about something about work on Saturday night, and we both basically said, AK, that it was an absolute good thing to be on, and we probably should have known then that it was probably going to get called off.
Yeah, we were chatting Friday night. Friday night we were chatting, and I don't know how many other people were like this, but I woke up 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night on Saturday morning, and subconsciously the first thing I did was grab my phone and check the exchange market to see if the meeting was going to be on. And the last time I woke up was about 5 a.m. and it was 1.3, and I was like, happy days, happy days. And when I woke up, I had a text message off Tyrrell saying it's off, and I was like, for fuck's sake. So it was a bit of a sickener. I was just saying as well to other lads, a sold out meeting in Ireland. I can recall one previous sold out meeting, and that was Laytown, and they can only get 6,000 in there before you're in the seat, essentially. And it was 28 degrees at Laytown, and it was a sellout 6,000. They were turning people away at the door. I can't remember a sold out meeting in Ireland. And they were saying, don't come to the door on Saturday at Leopardstown. I think it's such a shame. And I think every UK-based person that I bumped into on Saturday and even today, Monday, had a great time at Leopardstown. And I just think they also probably don't know what they missed by not having it Saturday, Sunday. I think that Saturday would have been absolutely unbelievable. And I feel quite sorry for the people at the track that did the best to get it on. And obviously the new CEO there as well, Mark Clayton, who I ended up by chance watching the Gold Cup with today, stood next to him and having a chat whilst we were watching the Gold Cup. So disappointed for everyone there at the track. That it could have been unbelievable, and I think the Sunday still was unbelievable. And they did a real good job at saving that second day as best as they could today, essentially. On the track, the bet is so strong. I think the people that bet, and I think it's kind of our niche essentially, is the punters that bet between 100 quid and 500 quid. and there was loads of them about the place, and the bet was really strong. We turned over 6 figures on the Sunday, and we were expecting that to be less than the Saturday if it would have gone ahead. So the bet was unbelievably strong. A few interesting things for me was from a betting point of view, there wasn't a shilling for final demand, and there was plenty of cash, as Simon probably alluded to in his report, for the winner, which was, I always think, slightly ominous when you're looking at a 4-runner race and Willie's got 3 of them and he's got heavily odds on shot. I don't particularly want to see a load of cash for another one, and that proved fairly ominous. Again, for rare instances on the talk, beating Ballyfad in that photo, I don't think anybody on the track watching the race, and even watching the slow-mo, and then even after the race, the results called, I don't think anybody thought Talk the Talk had won that race on the track. There was actually boos ringing out when they announced the result, which is unusual when a 3-1 5 wins at a big meeting, to be honest with you. So that was quite unusual. One the market really got wrong was Marine Nationale. A lot of money in the ring for that. There was money for Majborough, but there was so many doubters around in the ring, and the bet was unbelievably strong. Interesting, you just literally couldn't give away any of the other runners in the race. Not a shilling for anything else that I saw in the ring at all. And the market at the front end probably got it wrong. What else did we have on the Sunday? Lossiemouth was very, very strong in the betting. Again, outside of the front 2, you couldn't give anything away in the race. And again, so it proved 1 and 2. For the ring, it was probably a slightly better result, but Brighter Days Ahead probably had her backers as well. So fairly neutral stuff. An interesting race was the race where Charles's horse got beat. I started a joke. It might have looked slightly weak. I know it went off 7-4-5, and it was probably 2-1 into maybe 13-8 on the show. It's gone off 7-4. I think it went off slightly weak. The right faces stepped in on the off on that horse. So that was definitely fancied, and they probably just bumped into one there with Bones on Fire again. And then I suppose that bumper was, like you said, that when you're talking 50-yard pole, what's the point? I thought, as Tony said, the owner took that unbelievably well. I think the difference in prize money was 40 grand. I'd say there'd be plenty of trainers looking for owners who behave in that manner after such an unfortunate defeat. So that was a really, really strange one. Obviously, today I think there was probably half the crowd there was pretty much on the Sunday. They've probably done well to get that number through the door as well. It was absolutely freezing. Plenty of cash again for the 1 and the 2 in the first race. Dr. Steinberg, very well bet in the ring, close to the off. Narciso Haas was fairly weak actually. I know it's gone off evens, but there wasn't. We've done our hoop on it, but it was. Was it weak? It probably wasn't weak, but it was just fairly standard. I don't know if it was basically an even money shot throughout the show and didn't really move from that. What else happened today? Romeo Coolio, as we alluded to. I think Romeo Coolio must have gone about 10s in running. I don't know if you've got a last
14.
14 was it? Yeah, I had a look at one stage where he looked beat, and then looks like he's going to absolutely hose up, and then looks like he might get beat again. Just pure drama with that horse. That race resulted in plenty of oohs and ahs. And then the big one, I suppose, the Gold Cup was all about galloping, I suppose, in the ring. There was a little bit of money for Factor File, not a decent spread of the roughly 10-1 shot sort of thing. We saw an interesting bet for Firefox at 50s, and that ran a decent race without threatening. Yeah, it was just really good overall. Like I think you alluded to the Elliott horse in the penultimate Jacob's Ladder. There was loads of money for that. That was probably one of the best bet horses of the weekend, to be honest with you. And it might not be talked of as such, I'm not sure. But there was lumps of money for that. And that one as it liked as well. And the last was just a nothing race from a betting perspective, I suppose. But I suppose just in conclusion, just really unlucky. Felt for the new CEO. He could have got off to an absolute flyer there with that meeting Saturday, Sunday, and I think they've done. And I just hope people come back next year, because I think people had a good time and they had a good experience. but they probably just didn't even see it at its best. The Saturday Sunday is absolute perfection from a meeting point of view, and it'd be good to get everybody back and even more through the door next year.
Absolutely, that's the hope, that you don't lose the momentum from the people who wanted to come, and they come again next year, I guess. Are we park the Dublin Racing Festival there and get on with the topics, or anything?
Yes,
Anyone
there
else?
was one question, Ronan, about to Anthony, wasn't there? About basically, it was a question asking how much turnover did it cost the Sunday Monday into the Saturday Sunday?
Yeah, I think we would have done six figures both days. Probably got it here on my phone somewhere of one of the lads, but I don't think we would have done anywhere near that today. What was our number? I can give you our number in real time.
Yeah, that was a question from Darren Hughes, by the way. Just give him a name check.
It still wasn't too bad. We've still turned over 75 grand now today, so still okay. But I think it could have been. It's probably, what has it cost us in turnover? Maybe 50 grand, maybe. It's probably that difference. And that's just one bookmaker. And there was probably, I'm not saying we're one of the bigger ones, we take one of the bigger bets maybe, but I'd say from a turnover perspective in the ring across, I'm guessing roughly 60 bookies, yeah, you're probably talking a couple of million difference in turnover maybe, just from extra people being there, maybe even more.
I think what Darren might have been getting at with the question was, would that be something worth looking at? Presumably you'd prefer, or everyone would prefer, the Saturday Sunday thing, not a Sunday Monday bank holiday Monday meeting. I think that's what he was getting at.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely 100%. I think it, as meetings go in particular for Ireland, I can't think of a meeting that brings over the British people more than that meeting from a percentage of crowd point of view. They're probably, I don't know what they are they 25% of the crowd maybe? That's quite a lot. That is a hell of a lot from compared to other meetings in Ireland. So having it on a Monday when it's not a bank holiday in the UK is probably a big difference, I'd say.
The pubs probably have their biggest day ever, didn't they, on the Saturday?
Shelbourne Park did. I was talking to a bookie who forgot his laptop and he was fuming. Absolutely fuming. He had to write bets out by hand like back in the day, and I think he was fairly knackered in fairness after it. Yeah, I think Shelbourne Park looked bigger than it has done recently on Derby final nights to me. That looked absolutely hopping. And I spoke to Frank Finnegan, one of Frank Finnegan's lads, on when did I speak to him? It might have been on Sunday, it might have been yesterday. And I said, how did you get on? And he went, loads of bets. And I was like, well, how did you get on? Do you win or lose? And he went, we actually don't know. We had to write. It was him who was writing out the bets by hand. And he was like, I don't even know if we won or lost. And we just literally just filled the bag and paid out when people won, but didn't know if they'd won or lost. So there's plenty of money knocking about, I'd say.
Very good. Okay, gents, we get on with the topics here. And let's deal with our first topic, which I mentioned in the intro. So we want to talk about the betting tax. This topic entitled "Betting Tax Chickens Coming Home to Roost." And in just a couple of points this week with the latest William Hill financial results, and that firm's restating intention to sell shops and economise elsewhere in the business, and then obviously Coral ending their Cheltenham Festival sponsorship of the Coral Cup with immediate effect. They've been sponsoring at the festival since 1974. And it just suggests that bookmakers weren't bluffing with regard to the recent budget results. We've quote just to read out here from Louis French, the Conservative Shadow Minister for Culture, Media and Sport. We warned Labour that hiking taxes would negatively impact funding for UK sports, cost jobs and fuel the black market. If bookies are cancelling funding for Cheltenham, lower profile sporting events will surely be next. Labour put ideology before common sense yet again. Harry, we've heard precious little from you so far. So, do you want to have first innings here on the kind of latest developments out of the betting tax ramifications this week?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Ronan, I think it shows that there are going to be real world effects of the taxes that haven't yet come in. Of course, that's worth bearing in mind. But so we're seeing the very early impact. I think the only thing that I would say is that it's perhaps still a little bit too early to judge the overall impact on this. For that reason, the taxes haven't come in. But yeah, I mean, William Hill is an operator that has had problems by the sounds of things for quite some time, but that doesn't mean that this has had not been the straw that potentially broke the camel's back with these shops. And Coral, I think the sponsorship of horse racing is where racing is at its most vulnerable here, particularly when you throw in the double whammy, I suppose, when you throw in the cost of media rights that are being charged back to bookmakers. That I think is where racing is really going to feel the pinch. Is that what AK I think sometimes calls a sort of I can't remember the phrase, but a spend that isn't necessarily obvious in terms of what return it's going to get. I can't remember the phrase for it now. But yeah, it's early days, but it is not a surprise to anyone.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
discretionary spend.
Yeah.
There you go.
What do I think? I think for regarding the sponsorship, you probably haven't. It's tip of the iceberg stuff. I think when there'll be a lot of deals that are running. I think there's two parts to the sponsorship. I think there's a lot of deals that will be running out that won't be renewed, and you won't see the impact of that. I think some of the sponsorship that will still happen is because people are tied into contracts. I think it'll be quite evident what happens when those contracts run out, and that's when you need to start worrying about that. And there's an opportunity cost there. There's a hidden cost of the sponsorships that would have happened that now won't happen, which you won't even be aware of. So I think it's a double hit in that regard. And I've said it a lot of times. I think we'll actually start getting some. We'll start moving away from the theory when we start seeing some of the dire consequences of black market growth from a harm perspective. And my wish is that people, when they refer to the harm that's going to be created, separate the regulated market out from this black harm, and we remind the people that fueled the black market harm of the consequences of their actions. I certainly will be doing.
Indeed, we'll move it on, Tony, and bring you in the next story, which was the Sprinter Sacre episode. So we're going to ask, what did the Sprinter Sacre episode tell us apart from seemingly miscommunication episode? So this was, I'll just read you out kind of when this kind of settled on Wednesday, when Nicky Henderson came out. It was a story in the Race Post just to kind of confirm what actually happened. So Nicky Henderson confirmed his yard will fund all veterinary bills for this retired Sprinter Sacre following some confusion, in inverted commas, on Tuesday evening around a GoFundMe page that was launched for the dual champion chase winner. Vicky Roberts, responsible for caring for the 20-year-old, has since closed the page and will refund all the £3,822 raised by racing fans to support veterinary costs after the three-time Cheltenham Festival winner suffered an accident in his aftercare. This page description said that the £5,000 funding target required for his procedure was beyond what can reasonably be funded privately, leading to social media upset over the much-loved chaser, who amassed over 1.13 million in prize money. So sorry, AK, I'll go to you first because we were talking about this on the WhatsApp group, but we're kind of wondering here, and just kind of suffice to what you said, should high upkeep animals be given to people with love but limited funds?
Yeah, absolutely not. I think in the last year on this pod, I've probably slagged Henderson for not running horses, and I was very complimentary about him last week about something, but I can't think what it was. Very it was pulling his horse out when the hole appeared. I thought that was the right thing. And I will be here again. I think they were unbelievably restrained, in my opinion, for the response to this. Literally, people were literally calling them out. I thought the snowball effect of that was absolutely shocking stuff. And I thought that the people that are looking after, inverted commas, Sprinter Sacre, I thought they just behaved absolutely deplorably. I thought it was absolutely scandalous what they were at. If they haven't got access to a few grand to look after the horse, they shouldn't have the horse. And a lot of these people, I think we've seen it previously with the uproar over Michael Owen trying to sell one of his horses, and there was uproar, oh, give it to the girl that looked after him and stuff like that. And I think they're all great ideas in theory, but if you can't afford these horses, and in that example, if you can't pay 800 quid for the horse when he goes through the ring, it's not. I just don't think you should be looking after them. To be honest with you, if you've not got the money, you shouldn't be looking after them. I think that can lead to a lot more problems, and you can have all the best intentions in the world. And I thought the Henderson camp were unbelievably restrained there, really
The bit
restrained.
that I don't understand is, did they only learn about this as a result of this Twitter campaign, this GoFundMe campaign?
No, I actually was reasonably on top of this as soon as it broke. And I follow Camilla Henderson, Nicky's daughter.
Yes.
As soon as this broke, Camilla said, well, this is not actually correct because Nicky's been to see the horse, has been in touch with the vets. Caroline Mould, the former owner, who's a very rich woman, she just said, I will forward on the vet's bills to me, and I'll
And
deal.
that had already happened at the time of the GoFundMe being set up.
That was Camilla Henderson responding to the story that broke on Twitter, presumably.
It's quite hard to follow the timeline for this at the moment.
That is what they said happened. They said that they contacted them. Henderson had been to the arm and said, "Send us and then the previous owner said, "Send us the bills and we'll pay them." And no bills were sent. And then they set up this public shaming, in my opinion, GoFundMe page. You shouldn't
And
even the horse if you can't
the speed with which people got into self-righteous mode on that was just it's so tedious.
It was muddied by the fact that I think Nicky Henderson may have been in France as well, maybe on holiday or sourcing horses. So there was a delay there. I think I think the GoFundMe page, I think they did approach the former owner, Caroline Mould, who's worth tens of millions. So money was never going to be an option. But there's inevitably going to be delay when people are asking for money, and you just need proof of who they are and what it's all about. So that was, I think, it really was a miscommunication. What concerns me is not every former owner can easily write off 5 grand or whatever it was to actually pay for a horse's care. How many horses in this situation would have just been euthanized if you can't afford that kind of money? And I know Anthony's saying about, if you can't afford the fees, you shouldn't really have the horse. But I think everyone's kind of been in situations with animals where the bill you get from vets is far more than you were considered reasonable. So what worries me is the wider picture about what would have happened to horses in this situation whose owners didn't have access to the funds that Nicky Henderson and Caroline Mould had.
Indeed. We leave that one there, lads, and move on to the latest in the BHA standstill as boardroom staff over data rights. Sorry, the latest standstill with the BHA with regard to the data rights kind of row. And just read you out an extract from the Racing Post, which was reported last Monday. So British Racing's governance overhaul is ground to a halt as race courses and participants dig in over a data rights dispute that is blocking changes to the BHA board, threatening commercial reforms and preventing the appointment of a permanent chief executive. Racecourses have refused to sign off on changes, including fully independent board, which was a prerequisite for BHA chair Lord Allen eventually taking up the role 5 months ago, unless they are given assurances from the governing body that race day data collected by the BHA will continue to be provided to them for a nominal sum and will not be independently commercialised. However, it is now understood that the other shareholders in the BHA, the Racehorse Owners Association, Turbid Breeders Association, and licensed personnel will not agree to ratify governance changes if the BHA relents and the racecourses receive the assurances they require, meaning that Allen is locked in a Mexican standoff between the sport's two key power blocks. So we had an update then on Wednesday. British Racing remains deadlocked after a BHA board meeting concluded on Tuesday without an agreement being reached on the future of race day data rights. While the meeting was described as constructive by a source with knowledge of the event, there continues to be no clear path forward that would allow an independent BHA board to be signed off by the sports members. So I don't know what the what's the solution
I love the
here,
phrase
Harry?
you started that off. You started off with ground to a halt. In order for something to grind to a halt, it has to be in motion in the first place, and we just seem to be permanently in a state of having been ground to a halt. We dealt with this the other week. I thought this had been dealt with months ago. I thought that was the whole point. We just seem to be in Groundhog Day with this. We come back to it again. I thought that was the whole point of his delay at the time of becoming chair, was that he was getting these assurances, and um, I just don't understand how we're back here. I mean, it's coming up more often than bookmaker taxes on this pod at the moment. This Mexican standoff.
It's February the 2nd is Groundhog Day, isn't it?
Oh, is it? There you go.
I think so.
Perhaps that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just absolutely bizarre, isn't it? Like you said, it was meant to be a prerequisite of Lord Allen joining the board, which delayed by 3 months, and now we got to the stage where it's. I think I might put it on the running order. I might well bring it up now. It's in stark contrast, to the Irish racing. It seemed to all work together. I mean, I thought Leopardstown handled the delays brilliantly, which involved Punchestown, who were due to race on the Monday. They gave up their fixture on the bank holiday Monday and moved it to Wednesday. And that was a bank holiday fixture, so they would have lost a lot of people from by switching from Monday to Wednesday, and no other course in the UK would have done the same for the greater good. It's an absolute disgrace what's going on here with all the self-interested parties, etc. We don't know what exactly has gone on. We'll caveat it there, but it's just an incredibly bad look, a real bad look for British horse racing. When a time was, there was a rallying call when Alan was meant to start last summer. We're all going to work together. We're going to push forward as one. There's nothing of the sort going on.
British
Can you,
horse racing. Sorry, go on.
sorry, AK, just to bring in a point there and give it to you then, and but can you lay everything here on the door step of the race courses and their thing? Is it too simplistic or naive to go, why can't you see the greater good for the sport, what we're trying to do here? Or they all
to be honest
just said back to you that we have businesses to run.
I take it back a step further. You can lay it at the blame of whoever gave the racecourses the power to act this way, unfortunately, who didn't have the foresight.
Well, they lost a court case in 2003, so it wasn't their fault. It wasn't anybody's fault. It was just
British horse racing is a death by 1,000 cuts, is what it is, and it needs somebody with a bloody a defibrillator or a bloody shotgun to.
Don't say Barry Hurt, for God's sake.
Like it needs a defibrillator or a shotgun to the temple, one or the other. This death by 1,000 cuts is just absolutely tragic. It's. I just don't see unless there's government intervention. I don't see. I think that's Lord Allen's best chance, to be honest with you. Is while Labour are still in power, trying to pull some sort of string. He didn't do anything. Well, he might think he did with the racing tax. I see that as the only solution. I don't think the people that have control of that are going to relinquish it, which is what I said months ago, actually. And I still don't think they will. I think you can talk to them as much as you like. It's a waste of time as far as I can see. I can't see it. I can't see the situation changing at all. And to be honest with you, I don't blame the racecourses. Have got this nice position from they're just not going to give it up. They're not. They'd probably consider it jeopardy. Why would they give it up? Well, they might as well have a seat at the table from their point of view. And it's just the sport.
They couldn't justify it to their shareholders, for one, could they?
Government intervention is the only solution I see.
And it's if this is what's going to make the whole thing fall down, or a data rights thing, then even if they did get over this, when we deal with the bigger issues and then the things coming together, then they have absolutely no chance. If this is causing this much consternation between everyone, Anyway, look, our next point was I can kind of just cap this off with it, and I don't know, guys, if you got to read the David Armstrong interview with Tom Kerr in the Racing Post, but I'll just read you out an extract from it. Kind of just sums up the whole situation, I guess. So, David Armstrong spent 7 years at the heart of British racing's power structure. As chief executive of the Racecourse Association, he sat on the BHA board, the levy board, and the commercial committee, among plenty others. If committees were racehorses, he'd be JP McManus. He had a front row seat for every crisis, dispute, and debate during a period that was tumultuous even by racing standards. So when he describes how the sport makes decisions, it's worth listening to. And this is a quote. He says, "You do what racing always does," he says, and that is to fudge it. So, yeah, pretty telling kind of interview there. Tony, I don't know if you want to come in on that, or we can leave it there.
No, every interview I've seen from Armstrong the last 7 years, he's been given quite an easy time.
Just a bit.
And I read that article and I just thought it was absolutely staggering. And I think with all this going on, I'm pretty sure that Armstrong still sits on the BHA board until all this gets sorted out. So he's given this interview, quite a damning interview, and he's still on the BHA board. And there's nothing more depressing than reading what he put there. I mean,
just on that question about the boards in this sport, you mentioned there, Brendan, when you were going through it, that he was on the levy board, he's on the ROA, the BHA board. I think something that would be really useful from a journalistic point in view in horse racing is for someone to really analyse who is on all these different boards,
map it out.
And whether there are conflicts of interest between
100%.
them as a result of being on all these. Well, we shouldn't have people who just appear like sort of, extras in a low budget theatre. They're just playing every role. They just turn up and it's, they're it's the same person.
Eddie Murphy.
There's so many. Exactly, yeah. All going back a bit further, Alec Guinness, but yeah, I'm not saying that he, in his case, there's necessarily anything wrong with it, but it does just appear that the people just seem to just keep appearing in different positions. I think that would be a really interesting of investigative journalism, and to work out whether, because I think when you start getting people to feel perhaps a bit awkward about the fact that they're sitting in all these different positions and perhaps don't have a particular, he talks about fudges. Is it a huge surprise when you're wearing about 6 different hats that people are having to come up with fudges?
Do you know what? I can't abide people that have sat in positions of power for years and years and years, and then they stop doing what they're doing, and then they come out and say, "Oh, it's all a joke." Like, they should be doing that. They should be coming out publicly when they're actually active in these areas. But that's why I don't get invited to any.
I think Lydia Hislop got quite heavily stuck in on that point on Twitter. I saw in response to the article.
It's a joke. Like, it's an absolute farce. Like, I won't be putting any of that on my CV if I was him. Achieving nothing in 7 years, like.
Well, he was on 7 different boards, in fairness to him. But
he used to be. He used to run Wasps, and obviously they're no more. But no, I just read it and I was just flabbergasted by, one, the honesty, and two, the actual shitstorm that racing is. Depressing stuff.
Indeed. Let's talk about the illegal gambling task force that was launched this week. So on Wednesday, Baroness Fiona Twycross launched a new illegal gambling task force and set out its mission to tackle this important issue. So a statement read, "By uniting key players across the industry, from tech companies to advertisers to social media and payment platforms, and sharing expertise, we can make a real impact. Our task force will work together over the next year to ensure that people who wish to gamble can do so safely with the right protections in place." The BHA also commented this week, "The BHA is delighted to join the government's new DCMS illegal gambling task force, where we will represent British horse racing's best interest. It is crucial that more is done to tackle the growth of the illegal betting market, and by working collaboratively, the coalition of industry experts is well placed to make a meaningful difference." So what chance do you give them, AK?
I just always come back to the fact that President Xi's China, in one of the most repressive countries in the world, couldn't stop the black market in their own country. I don't believe the 26 million quid they've got for this, or whatever the number is. It's a $5 trillion industry, and they've got 26 million quid. And what I would love to have seen from the BHA and from the big bookmakers that are involved in this are going, I would love to say, we're not getting involved. You're wasting your time. The cat's out the bag here. Why are they entertaining this and thinking they're going to make any kind of difference at all? They're pissing in the wind from what I can see, unfortunately. And I think they'd have a lot more. They'd have my respect if they came out and just said, "What are we doing here? What can we contribute? How can we stop this?" It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. That's what I would have done. I would have come out and said, "I'm not getting involved. You're pissing in the wind."
It seems like a whack-a-mole job, doesn't it? As soon as a site comes up,
Like you see the numbers. It's like when I give the example where you talk about a poker player, and a poker player pops up on TV, and his lifetime earnings are 500 grand, but he's spent 3 million buying into tournaments. Like, it's the same as the cease and desist letters. Oh, we moved 12,000 things off Google last year. Well, that's no good if 100,000 of them popped up in the meantime. Like, there's no context there at all. I just think it won't work. Like, it literally cannot work. It just depressed me talking about it. So there's just no point. Genuinely does. I think it's just box ticking stuff, not real world stuff. Just can't happen.
You'd like to sit on that board though, wouldn't you, and pull the salary?
I'd be out of the room in 10 minutes. I'd say I'd be being removed from the room in 10 minutes. I'd say if I popped up in one of those, just getting out of just being let out.
Yeah,
that seems like a good for you, Harry, doesn't it? You always want to get on the gravy train.
I'm longing to be invited onto the gravy train, but no one will have me.
I'll end it as I always end when I try and end on a positive. We wish them well.
Okay, let's take in a tweet from well, it kind of got widely went viral, I suppose, and went viral in the racing and gambling kind of Twitter or X last week, which was from Jake at J Horse Whisperer. Tweet read, "Worst mistake I've made in 6 years of professional gambling. Withdrawing my Betfair exchange balance. I built up £45,000 profit in 2 years. Withdrew it all, no issues. Tried to deposit £10,000 to start again. They asked for source of wealth documentation and pay slips." I thought, AK, maybe could you do your best to explain to someone who mightn't be so in touch with the compliance side of this, of what's actually gone on here?
Yeah, I won't give the specifics on, I suppose, on the compliance side, but like I think this happened to me, to be honest with you. This happened to me when an exchange came to me for source of wealth, and when I was betting full time, and source of wealth being your website didn't actually work. I think I don't know. I think that's the problem. I have a few mates in this industry, different people in the industry, people who gamble, different things, and like I see from one of my mates was telling me a story about he had 6 accounts, and say he's allowed to deposit £1,000 or £1,000, £2,000 into each account. He'll have a net balance of 12 grand, and he described to me how he's trying to get basically 11 grand. He's happy to lose 10% to get it all into one account, essentially, so he can just bet on that account. It's just madness. Like it's madness. Some of the stuff I see, some of the stuff, and like compliance is compliance. Really, I'm totally independent to that, because if I did it, I'd probably do it wrong. I have to get somebody whose domain knowledge is that, and I don't get involved in any compliance. Just sits outside of trading as it should. At AK Bets, and the stuff that they do are our own compliance, and I think logically I can question bits and things, but then my compliance guy will come to me and go, "Well, we're doing this because of this, and this is why you can't do it the way you think you should do it, Kaminskas." And I have to leave it to them. But some of the things I just see industry wide, I think are just, again, I just put them in the well-intentioned but counterproductive there are holes in some of the processes, I think, that are industry standard, I think, are not optimal. But it's I think everyone's just half terrified of their own shadow at this stage, and it's that's just the market, that's just the industry we are at the moment, I think, just generally.
This seems so illogical. Has a client ever approached you, Harry, and just say, look, this has happened to me. Can you make them see sense from a legal perspective?
I can't make a bookmaker see sense. I've been trying with AK for nearly 2 years now on this podcast. Yeah, I mean, tons of clients have had, and lots of people I know have had exactly the same experience of taking large sums out of an exchange, not being able to get it back in. It is perhaps the most extraordinary element of the whole way that the industry has moved in the last couple of years, and the anemic way everyone has just sort of allowed it to happen. That's the most extraordinary element of it. It's not screamed about in the same way that people, horse racing, for example, should be kicking up the most almighty fuss about the inability of people to get their money into the exchanges. But it just doesn't really like going down that route, but partly because it doesn't really understand it, a lot of them. But the fact that story was an eye-opener to people was kind of surprising to me, because this has been going on 3 or 4 years, I would say, at least, if not longer. People just not being able to get large sums in, and they'll let me get it. A lot of them were being allowed to put in £2,000 a month for a while, and then when the balance gets too high. But the real thing, I suppose, the other real interesting point of this is just what are Betfair doing with their exchange? Why?
That's it. It blows my mind that UK horse racing, which is what we're all interested in, I suppose, on this podcast, are UK and Irish horse racing. You're looking at the liquidity there and the hoops that people are jumping through, and you move over to Bangladeshi women cricket, and there's 80 million quid matched on the market. You're just going, what is going on here? Is anybody looking at this? What is actually going on here? This is banana stuff.
And the other thing that people don't, I think quite appreciate enough is the effect it has on ownership in horse racing as well, because the number of people who want to bet and will own horses because they want to bet at the lower level, it does bring with it its problems, but a lot of people who are prepared to own very bad horses and race them in very bad races do want to be able to get lumps on, and they can't, and that I think is going to, if it's not already, seriously change the appetite for a lot of people to own racehorses. I'm not sure that's really fed into it yet, but it's coming.
I genuinely think the worst thing that has happened to horse racing from a bookmaker point of view is, in the last 6 to 8 years, the big bookmakers in the UK have derived more of their income from outside of the UK. And I think when we're talking about how anemic people are to saying, what is going on here? What are we all doing here? This just isn't working. We need to change, and we need to campaign together for more liquidity.
There's no foresight.
But it doesn't matter.
It's an industry that doesn't know that it's going to be hurt until it's after it's been hurt. It just seems incapable of seeing the fist flying towards its face,
It occurs to me, shouldn't the levy board have a handle on this? Because presumably it's affecting their returns.
I don't know enough about what the levy board, remember, is a statutory creation, and it will have very clear statutory roles. I'm not sure if one of its statutory roles is actually trying to maintain the size of the levy, or whether it just deals with once the levy has sort of been gathered. So I simply don't know the answer to that. But the sport should.
But then again, that's it's not a conflict, but size is also not conducive to it being healthy, because that just results in higher margins can increase levy. It's not conducive to long-term prosperity, essentially. And Yeah, yeah, when I just look at the pathetic state of horse racing, and then I scroll over to Adelaide women against bloody Melbourne women, and I'm looking at
Mm.
40 million quid match done over 179.5 runs, and I'm just like this is just a farce. This is an
Mm.
absolute farce now.
I mean, if you were the directors of a company that share price was collapsing, like liquidity was collapsing in horse racing, you'd be out on your ear. As
I'd be selling my shops to Betfred. That's what I'd be doing.
I do. I think that the Betfair is it's a
It's
number of different
exchanges in
problems all
general, to be
arriving. It's
honest.
exchanges in
Can't say
general,
just them.
but everything. But it's all a perfect storm arising at once, which is that you don't get the sense that the owners of the exchanges are making a huge effort to do anything about this either.
No.
They couldn't.
We'll
Yeah.
Well,
come
whether it's because they
to
want to move people onto their fixed odds and sports books, who knows?
perhaps come to a couple of more positive stories with regards to kind of attendances and prize money funding and stuff. Firstly, the statistics come for 2025 for Irish racing. All metrics were positives. Among them, a couple of things. Attendances grew by 6% to an overall figure of 1.316 million at Ireland's 390 fixtures during the year. Prize money offered amounted to 70.76 million, up 1.2% from the 2024 figure. I think we touched on a bit on that side of things, AK, from a previous podcast, just going racing and stuff, and generally trending in the right direction. Or
Well,
do you
it
want to come in
is.
there?
I'll just try and be positive and just say, yeah, our numbers are all tracking in the right way. I think it
I
is
was
positive.
teeing you. I was teeing you up there. That's what I was doing there.
Just allow me the small caveat of prize money being funded by the government, or just as like and Irish racecourse attendances. I will not be holding my breath for accuracy at a lot of the tracks. So yeah, I don't know. You probably know yourself, Ron. Like they don't even count the people coming through the door. To be honest with you,
You're
like,
looking
so
for
I don't know. I don't know
positivity.
where the numbers are coming from at most tracks. Only Galway I've ever. Galway and maybe the Curragh are two of the only tracks where I've gone through a turnstile and thought the number was being counted. The rest of them, I don't know. I'd say that there's big differences in what I think some of the numbers are and what they are. But listen, if you can sell it to a government who will pump a few more quid in, listen, we're all part of the game.
We'll send the illegal task force into those tracks then.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone there to just count everyone going in. Probably be the better job than what it is at the moment. So we'd also just touch on the Jockey Club, eager to drive the sport forwards after announcing record prize money of 61.5 million in 2026. So Jockey Club prize money will exceed 60 million for the first time in 2026, with an extra 3 million going towards purses compared to last year. A total of 61.47 million in prize money will be raised for, up from 58.1 in 2025, with the organisation investing in top and developmental ends of the sport in line with the broader approach being taken by British Racing. The bulk of the extra 3 million will be targeted at one fixture, the Betfred Derby, with 1.375 million being added to the 2-day event. Last month, the Jockey Club revealed this year's Derby would be worth £2 million, while the Group 1 Coolmore Coronation Cup was also being boosted by 450,000 to 1 million as part of a suite of changes designed to reinvigorate the meeting. Tony Calvin, I already know your views on this,
Mm.
so perhaps I'll bring in one of the other lads, Harry. I think the argument for this is that I guess British Racing would say that we need to have our top events
Yeah.
comparing favorably with the other big Group 1 events around the world, and this is why this is being used.
I think that's I'm not with Tony on this one. I think that I see that there is a decent argument to put what is perhaps otherwise an unfair emphasis on prize money at the top level. But given the state the sport's in at the moment, you're not doing too many people many favors putting it down at the, you're keeping people alive. I don't say it's easy, and I know that it's painful for people who are struggling to get by in the sport, but the sport's too big, And if you're sending too much prize money towards the bottom of it, you're just keeping it too artificially too big for me.
Do you think it's a deliberate ploy to give it to the top end, pretty much ignore the bottom end, to actually just like for the sport to kind of like correct itself naturally? Because if you are literally running for pittance and you can't get a bet on your own horse, then you know it's I just don't get. I did some stats on this about the Derby and the Coronation Cup, that you're basically giving money to incredibly rich people, whether it be
Just going to say,
Coolmore, whether it be that you know, the Hamdans.
But it is also to do with the status of the event as well, isn't it? I mean, you can say the same about what's he called? Alcatraz, not Alcatraz, Alcaraz, the guy who won the Australian Open. Yes, was that $4 million? I should think that his sponsorship deals for just turning up 20 million for going there, you know, and the difference between 3 million last year and 4 million to him is going to be nothing, but it's the status of the event. And I think that's why it matters.
I was my one comment on it was going to be multi-billionaires. Thank you for the extra prize money. Like it's a fairly non-story. This, isn't it? I think it's not going to change the game. I don't think at all. Might get one lad from America to run in the race. Fantastic. Like it's
I think we lost. Did we lose you there for a minute, Anthony? And you're back. Anyway,
no, I think
it's been me.
Ronan's gone, I think.
Ronan's finally had enough.
Ronan's just said, "Sod this."
I was only worried.
Too late.
I was only bet if we lost you, then we wouldn't be still recording. But if it's only Ronan, we can live with it.
We can plow on.
Yeah, we can play on. I'll take over hosting duties.
Oh, yeah,
if you like.
Go.
Ronan Groovy's coming back on. This is going to make great podcast. We're just rolling on here, Ronan. Now we're talking about. Can you hear us, Ronan?
So I'm back. Sorry,
we're back. Yeah. The game's gone, is what we've concluded there after that section, and you're ready to start on story number 9 now on the running order as a win.
Okay, very sorry about that, chaps. So we're just going to read this one out. This is the Jeremy Noseda story. So the Jeremy Noseda due in court for driving while allegedly under the influence of cocaine. Story from Jack Keane in The Sun. I'll just read you out the first few lines. Classic winning ex-trainer Jeremy Noseda will go on trial in September, having been charged with drug driving. Noseda, 62, was arrested by Suffolk police on the 4th of April near his home in Gaisley, close to Newmarket, for allegedly driving while under the influence of cocaine. He entered a not guilty plea in October, and last week Ipswich magistrates granted him a bail until his trial on September 23rd. Multiple Group 1 winning trainer Noseda, who quit the training ranks in 2019, was driving his Aston Martin DBX at the time of his arrest. So not much we can say on that, fellas. So we'll
is the Aston Martin going to be for sale? Just out of interest. Is the Aston Martin coming up for sale anytime soon? Just out of interest.
It might need to.
Do you know what blows my mind is the amount of people doing coke, like.
But not necessarily Jeremy Noseda. Not guilty.
Yeah, thank you, lawyer. But just in general,
that shouldn't take a lawyer.
It blows my mind the amount of people that are doing coke in the UK and Ireland. Like,
no, I think I completely agree with that. It is absolutely everywhere, and no one cares.
It's everywhere. Like it's everywhere. Yeah. If you're literally not doing it, that probably puts you in the top 10% of the population. Straight.
Yeah, it just means you're too mean, like us. I think really, it's too expensive.
It's too expensive.
I've never got the attraction. I mean, I'm bad enough on drink, but I've never got the attraction of someone giving you a tablet or something to stick up your hooter. You've got no idea what it is, what it can do to you. It's honestly,
it's mad, isn't it?
I mean, when growing up, my boys had 2 rules: no drugs, no tattoos. And to my knowledge, they haven't got any tattoos. But given what you've just said, I think there tends on to have been snorting at some point. But yeah, it's staggers. It does stagger me. It does absolutely.
But it's the point I made about. Sorry to go back onto the black market gambling again, but I do think that it's amazing that once you put once something just isn't seen, we just pretend it's not happening. I mean, it's a proper endemic, cocaine in society in a way that, it never used to be. It was for yuppies and marketing executives. It's now, the half of Newmarket seems to be fueled by it. It is.
Speaking of Coke, I was dying for a Coke today at Leopardstown, and it was
Pepsi
Pepsi
only.
and Club Orange again instead of Coke and Fanta. Like, come on, Irish!
Club Orange
The
is
biggest
a
change
I think
we
we're
can make in
probably.
Irish racing. They're getting Coke and Fanta into the tracks.
I think
Yeah.
we'll probably move on. But did I read that he was stopped at 1:30 in the afternoon with this?
Yeah, well, that's not a surprise because he's pleading not guilty to. He's just having a nice drive in his Aston Martin.
Yes. Silly me.
Jesus Christ.
Best of luck anyway.
Yeah.
Garrett, just to touch on the big issues on this podcast, AK. But any Irish person listening to this will be taking. They'd be taking Club Orange over Fanta. I think
Club Orange is
9 times out of
really?
10.
Club Orange.
no.
What are all them bits in it for? It's
I think I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there'd be a 90% Club Orange win rate there.
Oh, do you think
Now,
so?
come at us in the comments now if we're wrong. Any Irish people?
betting without tango, I hope.
But it's quite. Do you actually view yourself as Irish now, Anthony?
Me, I lived in England for 21 years and I've lived in Ireland for 17. And I'm only haven't got an Irish passport because I'm too lazy to fill out the forms. If anyone wants to fill them in for me, I could do with the passport.
Well, surely,
more countries.
surely, in these days, an Irish passport is worth its weight in gold, isn't it?
I know, but you should.
It is if you ever move, go anywhere. AK just basically.
If you see the forms though, mate, there's loads of forms to fill in, and I wouldn't be the best at admin now. If anyone
Delegate.
wants to outsource it, yeah. I'm sick of
Ronan, bring in a black ballpoint pen to work tomorrow.
One thing I'm genuinely sick of already is going on holiday with my family and then this queue tapers off into UK and people that don't make stupid political decisions queue, and I have to wait another hour to get through passport control in some places. That winds me up. That should incentivize forms.
I was just about to say that. Is this just pure AK math here, where you won't sit down and do the forms for half an hour, but you will do the queue for about 2 hours every time.
If it was half an hour, I'd do the forms. Trying to find my birth certificate was a nightmare as well. I just gave up after a little while. But anyway.
Indeed. Right, well, one more topic, and that's just before we take questions. This is veering over towards the bloodstock industry, maybe, or closer to the racing kind of stakeholder. But in a significant development for global turbid racing, Mrs. Sue Magner, a key figure in the powerhouse Coolmore stud operation, has reportedly secured an individual owner's license from the Japan Racing Association. This move allows her to directly own and race horses in Japan, marking a potential landmark step in Coolmore's expanding international footprint. So you want to take that one, Tony?
Yeah, I think this could be big news if it develops, because obviously Japan as a racing jurisdiction is quite a closed shop, and if you can get in there as an owner, that's a big foot in the door. And obviously we know about Coolmore's, championing of the Japanese sires, Deep Impact, etc. If they can get a significant owner foothold there, I think we're going to see a lot more runners over there from there, because obviously it's great prize money, it's great racing over there. Ryan Moore has been a massive advocate of Japanese racing for as long as I've known him and spoken to him. So yeah, I think this could be quite significant.
Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah,
You can only have a couple of horses though, can't they? Is that right? I think in Hong Kong you can only have a few horses under your name or something.
Basically, because they race so little in the likes of Hong Kong, there's a massive waiting list to be an owner.
Yeah.
So for them to get in, like I said, get a foot in the door in Japan is significant. I mean, I remember when Ryan went over there, because they only get limited contracts, jockeys. I remember he was saying, if they go to a grade 1 or a grade 2 during the week, it can be a really little track, but the prize money is still usually significant as well. So like I say, from an owner point of view, if you can be an owner in Japan or Hong Kong, etc., it's you do well to lose money, which is obviously not the case here.
Absolutely, yeah. Probably another nod to the general commentary that the Japanese are here to take over on the racing scene. Seem to be the general trend in the last few years at the big international meetings. But we'll see how that one goes. We'll take questions, lads. We have five altogether. We'll start with Keith Watson. Tow questions gone quiet. What happened with the Guardian probe? The insider bets? What was found? Were they betting with massive advantage, being able to see the numbers on each selection? Update, please. Tony, you put your hand up for this one.
Not really. I haven't. Nothing's changed as far as I'm aware. There's still quite a cloudy picture there. So no,
They had
I've
me
got
into
nothing
betting
to
into
add.
the wrong pools, didn't they? And close
Yeah,
to
yeah. I mean,
and close to the off, I think.
they did admit in some pools they were up to 50% was their involvement in their own pools, and they did. I think it was about. I think it was over a year ago now. They actually did itemize the pools that they play in. They updated their T's and C's, and they did give a rough ballpark figure of how much they bet into each pool. But significantly, they didn't say when they were betting into that pool, whether it was at the tail end, etc. So there were still questions to ask, but um, like I said, it's a cloudy picture still, unfortunately.
Andre Jordan's asking, Void bets re Leopardstown the difference between anti-post and after the 48-hour declaration stage. Most bookies voided day of the race, but let anti-post stand. AK, do you want to take that one?
I think it just depends on each bookmaker's individual rules. I think you were probably unlucky if you were betting. I don't know, really heavy grain horses, and I think the deck stayed the same, didn't they? And the track stayed the same. So I think a lot of bookmakers will have left bets stand. Actually, I think it's one you could have maybe approached your own bookmaker about potentially. It depends on how the individual rules were in each firm. Really, there's no universal
Somebody
rule there.
somebody asked me on Twitter, and I just assumed because, as you said, the original field stand, same track, different day. But normally in that situation, my understanding was that all bets should stand. But it
Yeah,
appears that
same.
it appears that only 365 were the only ones to let day of race bets stand. It appears that all bookmakers have it in their rules that anti-post can stand, but the day of race don't, which surprises me. But someone posted a response. I had a conversation with someone on Twitter. Someone posted a response that he asked, "Why are my day of race bets voided?" And they got an answer back from Skybet, which he screenshot, and it was like a conversation, and it was like, "Oh, most of our customers contacted us and wanted their bets to be voided." And that's no way to run a business. I just asked, I went to him and said, go back and ask for their terms and conditions and their rules, give them that, and then don't take anything else. Because one of the offshoots of that is when markets reformed for the Monday from the Saturday, bookmakers had a very good idea what horses were going to be backed. So they adjusted their prices accordingly when they went back up. So high unsatisfactory state of affairs. But if you are just ask your bookmaker
It's
according
it's
to their terms and conditions.
it's obviously worth pointing out it's a highly unusual situation, and I think the same as all instances, there'll be some winners and there'll be some losers from the situation. So it's not a case of the bookmaker having anyone over, in my opinion. It's some
No,
people
no.
will have won and some people will have lost on the back of the decision. So but it is an unusual situation, granted.
But it's all anti-post bets seem to stand, which obviously upset a lot of Kopek de board backers, etc. But
Mm.
as long as it's on the rules and their terms and conditions, it's hard luck in some cases. But some of the responses I saw from bookmakers to customers asking was decidedly ropey and not specific to their terms and conditions.
Sure. Next question from Ivor Weatherly. Fred and Denise among top 100 taxpayers in the UK. That's Fred Dunn and Denise Coates, just in case. But bookmakers pleading poverty. He's asking with a question mark here, kind of insinuating. AK, what you have in riposte to Ivor?
Just the amount of people that think bookmakers should, like the amount of people that think bookmakers should turn over billions of pounds and make no money is just off the charts. Like we've gone to the track today and turned over 75 quid, paid a lot of expenses and lost nearly 7 grand. Like it's one of the only industries where you can go to work and do your absolute brains. When bookmakers aren't immune to that. I find it absolutely bizarre that people think that bookmakers shouldn't assume all this risk and not be allowed to make money. It's absolutely, I don't know where we got this ridiculous notion from. I don't know what to say to people that ask stupid questions like that, to be honest with
you. See you next week, Ivor.
For your question, Ivor. David Brown's asking, someone self-excludes from betting and later decides they want to return. The regulated industry won't take them back. Do you think that pushes some people towards the black market? And how should the sport balance protection with personal autonomy? Harry, do you want to take that one from David?
It's a point I made perhaps 7 or 8 months ago on X, just saying, is it actually particularly helpful to basically stop people only gambling in the regulated market? And I got a bit of stick from sort of some people in the sort of charitable sector who said, well, look, it's actually helped an awful lot of people. But of course, that's anecdotal. I don't think it is a terribly good idea, actually. I think as the black market gets bigger, and advertises rampantly everywhere. And by the way, advertises as not on GamStop is what it largely advertises as, and that's what it's really looking for. It is looking for compulsive people who lose money at gambling. That's what it wants. So I'm increasingly of the view that you are doing very little. You might help the odd person who perhaps that would never use or access the black market. I'm sure those people do exist. But if you're a compulsive gambler, I'm not sure you're going to be too worried about whether the person that will take your bets when you're feeling the compulsion is licensed or not. So I'm afraid I don't think it's a terribly good idea.
I think all these things like self-exclusion and GamStop are, again, good in theory. And they probably do stop some people from gambling. I think it's probably a lot less than they will admit. And I agree with Harry. I think there's a huge danger, and probably the reality is it becomes a funnel, essentially. I've always been of the opinion that the people on those lists should be targeted for treatment, essentially, rather than kicking the can into the unknown. I don't think that works.
I think what you can assume is that those black market bookmakers are advertising themselves as not on GamStop because they know exactly what they're doing and they know exactly who their target audience is, and that alone, I think, should worry the Gambling Commission when they're looking at GamStop. Because if someone comes back, if just really absolutely, can't fight the compulsion anymore, then they've got one option at that point.
One of the things I'd be concerned about is just the size of someone like a GamStop, of them being hacked. The potential for damage of them being targeted for a hack would be off the charts, I'd say.
Well, it would be extremely valuable.
Unbelievably valuable data to somebody in the wrong hands. Like that'd definitely be a concern.
I think we can assume that it's never going to happen, that they're going to say that this doesn't work because it's too defeatist, and it would be really to accept that the black market is too big a problem. But it doesn't make a great deal of sense.
I think just to give again some context, I saw it on our customer services thread earlier, Ronan. The guys picked up immediately 3 people that tried to circumvent their own self-excludes on our website today. Like, to say that self-excluding, we've obviously stopped them again. To say that it just stops people from gambling, I think it's unbelievably naive. I think they're the people that you really have to help, and over I think all the resource needs to go into the people on those lists rather than attacking everyone who gambles and putting them under onerous conditions, essentially. I don't think just adding yourselves to those lists stops the compulsion in the main.
No, it doesn't. It's as you say, it's you can sort of see the logic of it when someone's thinking, well, why don't we just find a way to essentially try to make people go cold turkey? But you can't go cold turkey if you're surrounded by attractive alternatives, particularly if those alternatives are more dangerous. Because the one thing that certainly in my experience of acting for advising bookmakers now is certainly there was a time when some bookmakers didn't really care if they were dealing with compulsive gamblers, and in fact some of them were probably relatively sure that they were dealing with compulsive gamblers. That time has passed because the headache of and the dangers of dealing with compulsive gamblers for a regulated market mean that operators are falling over themselves to avoid dealing, which is essentially why they've so reacted up affordability checks the way that they have. Is they're falling over themselves not to, and you've got this huge gaping chasm with no passports. You don't need to give your name half the time. You don't need to give any KYC, any affordability. You'll have no caps on how much you deposit, how much you turn over. If you're doing 300 bets at 3 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock the next morning, these black market operators just say thank you very much. And it does seem somewhat crazy just to basically force people to into the arms of these operators.
Yeah, thanks for your question, David. Final question from Neil Tolson. Do you agree? I'm not quite sure how this works myself, lads. So, Harry, I might come to you and hope that you can take this on. But do you agree that the statutory levy should be higher than the horse racing betting levy? And if so, why should it be? I guess. Would you have an insight there of how those two work?
Can we do that one again next week, Ronan? And I'll look into it. I barely even understand the question at the moment.
It's now
20 past 11.
I was going to go back to the guy and ask him what he meant because I couldn't get my head around it.
There's a GGR statutory levy now imposed on bookmakers of 1.1% of GGR. And that's meant to go into the treatment of people who've got problems, essentially.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Jeff Banks, I think, thinks it houses asylum seekers, and I think that's where it's going. The levy is separate to that. The levy goes back into horse racing, so it's two separate things.
It's getting near to 11:30 in the evening, so we're getting near to the Jeff Banks hour, aren't we?
Oh dear.
Yeah. Okay, gents, we'll leave it there then. That's just about enough for this week. All that's left to say is usually we're having a bet this week. Do check out the AK Bets Big Prices tab for all the biggest sporting events. And obviously we look forward to the racing coming up. Newbury on Saturday, I think, is the big meeting this weekend as we edge closer to the Cheltenham Festival. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sending in the questions. Thanks to the lads for their contributions, and we'll talk to you around about this time again next week. Cheers.